How's it going, everyone? Welcome to part 7 of a followed a Laravel tutorial, but use my own framework instead. We're going to begin by making a quick update. So let's go to our globals, and I think okay. All right, so this is what we're going to do. So let's move this over here. So we got our chirp controller. All right, so let's create a store action. So what we're going to do, man, I'm not sure if that will work or not. We'll try it out. There you go. So what I did here was for the action here, I reroute it to store. So damn, that's interesting. That's interesting. It's like I'm duplicating code here. I don't like this. So I do chirp index. I don't like that. It's like this will work if I am doing a React JS view and then I just return a response. That's what I feel like. Um, yeah, this is more of a API call. I don't know if I can, let's see here. Repositories. Controllers. What I can do here, try. I don't know if that'll work or not. I haven't tested that out at all. So what I'm going to do is so let's just undo all this crap. So what we're at, so we begin at 1934. Uh, 1 hour 19 for APIs. For PHP views. So there is a way to do this already with the framework, but it's you're doing Ajax stuff and some JavaScript, and I'll have to I guess brush up on that. So let's begin with edit and delete chirps.
No one's perfect and everyone makes mistakes, typos, you name it. So if you don't want to just start the day with a nice cup of coffee, maybe we should add the ability for our users to edit their chirps. And the neat part is this completes the whole CRUD operations within a MVC structure in a Laravel application. So CRUD, create, read, update, and delete. So let's do the update and delete parts. All right. In our chirp.blade.php, that's our component for the chirp that we are looping through anytime we have new chirps. Why don't we add the edit and delete buttons first, as well as the form to do it? We just won't hook it up just yet. So this will probably go great. The through and delete. So let's do the update and delete parts. All right. In our chirp.blade.php, that's our component for the chirp that we are looping through anytime we have new chirps. Why don't we add the edit and delete buttons first, as well as the form to do it? We just won't hook it up just yet. So this will probably go great after, probably after this timestamp. I'm just going to add this in. Now this is a edit button. We're passing in the chirp ID. Now this is helpful to know. We want to target a singular chirp, and this is a way to do that within Blade. What this looks like is we are saying, hey, we want to go to the /chirps route, but we need to pass in a chirp ID, and then we're going to edit it. We'll hook up how this works within our web route in just a little bit. Next, we do have another form. Again, we do have to pass in that @CSRF method, but this is going to be a method of delete. So we do have a method of post with a method of delete, and that is necessary because HTML forms do not have a standard method of delete, so Laravel gives us this handy directive. Similar to this route that we're showing up here to go to the edit form, for our delete button, we have the action of /chirps, and again, passing in a chirp ID. All right, this might seem a little bit complicated, but bear with me here. Most of everything that we're going to be taking a look at when it comes to editing and when it comes to deleting means that we have to do it within a single instance of a chirp. And that's why we have this whole chirp ID inputted into these routes, because we need to find which chirp we need to edit and we need to find which chirp we need to delete. So why don't we, in our web routes, we can just continue to add those route : parameters. So we can do a route get, and we can do this for /chirps/ and then we're going to add in a specific chirp ID, and that happens.
Okay. Here's where we go into, I guess, the lesson for authentication and stuff. So basically, guests are able to do everything. All right, so I'm getting kind of out of order. Hmm. Okay. Uh, do I have anything in that table? I feel like that. All right. I gotta do some stuff. Um, warning. Um, so let's try it. All right. All right, so that's good. So we want to go into index. So what we're going to do is user. This is a very, 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 very cheap fix. Log in. There you go. So now what we did is instead of relying on this, so what we're going to do is at least do that. Yeah.
Within these curly brackets saying that, hey, we need a particular instance of a chirp. And then I'm going to say that this is the edits. And just for now, I'm just going to add the route puts, and we're going to do the exact same thing of chirps slash chirp, again in curly brackets. And then the last one is going to be route delete, and that's going to be slash chirps slash and then chirp in curly brackets. Now we're going to add the actual controller methods to this so that they actually function the way we want, but this curly bracket chirp is exactly the same.
And now I think I can get rid of this.
same thing that we are doing here. This chirp within the curly brackets is what we would call route model binding. We know that we need to get an instance of a chirp, and so this just gives Laravel an easy way of saying, hey, within this, we need to look for something that resembles or we can identify as a chirp. Now we're just going to pass in those chirp controller classes. So we're going to say chirp controller, and this will be the class with one of, let's go ahead and say this is the edit one. And just for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to do the rest. So update and destroy. Now Laravel does have a shorthand so that you don't have to do all of this. And we're doing things a little bit differently just because we have a git in the root directory and not a git of /chirps, for example, where we're listing all the chirps. We're doing that all on one page. But what we could do is something like this. We have a route resource where we are resourcing because we have that resource controller and passing that resource to chirp controller class. And then we could say we need to pass in everything, but only really the store, edit, update, and destroy. And this is identical to these four right here, just an easier way of putting it. For right now, I'm just going to be extremely explicit. Now let's go ahead and create the edit view that we will need because we are getting a new route. /chirps/chirp, this is that route model binding, and edit. Why don't we create that in our file? Views, and then in views, since we don't actually have a directory for chirps because our chirp index is technically the index of our whole application, I'm going to create one, chirps, and then in that chirps directory, we're going to have edit.blade.php.
All right, so now let's watch some more.
Let's create a directory, and then we have edit.blade.php. I'm going to paste everything in that we have again on the laravel.com learn page. You can find that for this lesson down below. This is the same layout that we are using throughout our application. We pass in a new slot title with edit chirp, and the majority of this form is exactly the same as our home.blade.php, just with different buttons and a different form. In this form, we are using the put method for that action chirps ID. Well, where does this go to? In our web route, we have the put chirps chirp. This is the update method. So that way, instead of creating a new chirp, we're really just updating one. And now this text area needs to have the chirp that we need to edit, right? So we are passing in the old message, the chirp message, so that when we are directed to this edit page, we see from the get-go the actual chirp message that exists within this chirp instance. We're going to be passing that chirp into the view within our controller here in a little bit. And then we have a cancel button that's just directing us home. Why don't we hook this up to our chirp controller? This would be in the public function edit method, which is showing the form for editing the specified resource. Again, in a resource controller for a standard MVC Laravel application, this is just best practice. So we might say here, we're going to return a view, and in that view, we're going to say that this is the chirps dot edit page. And this dot is going to say that this is in the directory of chirps. Again, in our views directory, we have the chirps directory. And we're going to use the edit page within there. Now, we do want to pass in the chirp, right? Because in our web route, we are getting these chirp route model binding. In this case, we need the instance of the chirp in our edit.blade.php because we need the chirp ID to be able to post back to whatever chirp we're actually editing. And then we also need the old message. What is the message of the current chirp that we're editing? And here in chirp controller, instead of the string of ID, well, we could use this to kind of find the existing chirp based off of maybe an ID. Maybe that ID helps us find that chirp. Well, we can use route model binding. That's exactly what I kind of talked about here in this web routes. We have this chirp parameter, and because we know that this is the chirp model associated with it, we can automatically assume what chirp this is based off of that ID. Because when we go into our chirp.blade.php, that's that chirp component, and we wanted to edit a chirp, we are passing in the chirp ID. So this is Laravel's way of saying instead of having to search the database for a particular chirp with an ID, Laravel is just going to do all of this for us. And it's going to look like this. We're going to pass in the chirp model with a chirp variable. And then we can use this compact method. That's just saying, hey, I want to pass everything from this chirp into this view. And there we go. So what we're doing here is saying when this edit method has a chirp associated with it, a chirp model, let's just pass everything that is associated to that chirp into the view. Again, create an array containing the variables and their values. Oops, it looks like this button is a little bit out of whack when it comes to our styles. But if we click edit, you can see maybe here in the lower left side of the screen that it's /chirps/7. Clicking on it, we get this view, /chirps/7.
Okay. Let's figure some stuff out. All right, so chirp, chirpity chirp chirp. Hmm. How do
That's the
they?
7. Clicking on be here in the
Okay. All right. I need to do something. I want alt. No, 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 no. What am I doing? Just doing a test. Okay. And then nice. Now I need to do a a link, a link, a link, a link, a link, 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 link. All right. That I was thinking a an anchor tag. That is exactly what I was thinking. All right, so let's do this. And then we can also do equals. Oh, bootstrap small button. That is right. Noise. All right. So now, so PHP make view chirp dot edit. So edit. So we go back to index. So, all right. All right, let's just do H1. Edit chirp. All right, that's good. So now, I feel like layout had a container fluid. Okay. All right, whatever. So, let's just make. Hold on. And then, Jesus Christ. There. Now you got it fixed. And then we can get rid of the if statements. So now we go into chirp controller. So now what we need to do is we can go, there is a way to do, so what we're going to do here is we need to get the chirp, because go in here. We ain't got no chirp. So here, let's go open up our model. So we need to do a little function. Uh, we don't really need the params. Um, find by ID, and all right. So it's basically doing this here. So conditions. Oh, let's just do params. ID equals. Really? What the f? All right. And then bind. So we really got to do this. So it's so now we need to get so um, equals, and then really? I thought you could do that. Fine. So now that allows us to do this. The, this might be more than one video, by the way. Alright, so now. Alright, so now. We might just have to store the user in a variable, but not at this moment. So now, eh, all right, all right. So that's update. Um, uh, and then margin bottom. That should have worked. There you go. All right, so now we go into the chirp controller. So now we can just do copy. So now it's the display errors chirp. Okay, so let's test update. All right, so now that is good. Uh, 2. That's pretty good.
Lower left side of the screen that it's slash chirps slash 7. Clicking on it, we get this view. Slash chirps slash 7, that's the 7th chirp, and it automatically knows what information to bring in. I'm going to cancel. Let's fix this, just for
Chirp. And then again, and then update. And then if you do something like that, please write something to chirp. Yes.
For simplicity's sake, I'm going to add a new div around these two divs, so that way we can separate them from the actual message. And then we can have this div be a class of flex with justified between, a width of full, and then we do need this to take up the full space, so flex of 1. Again, just a small change. And yeah, that looks a lot better. So now that we have this new edit page, let's go ahead and link up this update chirp button as well as the delete button. This is going to be done in our chirp controller. So first, the update method. Again, we want to pass in the chirp model. So we're going to use the chirp model, and it's going to be a chirp. This is going to be similar to our store, where we need to validate something first and then update the chirp. So we're just going to copy and paste this and then change it. Instead of creating the chirp, what we're going to need to do is grab the chirp and update it with the validated info. And then instead of redirecting with the success of your chirp has been posted, we can say your.
So what's the main difference is my framework parses the route. So now the ID here, if we go into edit, or am I being dumb? Yeah, the edit here will populate the route here, and then you can grab the value as the parameter, and that's what I did here is fund by ID and user ID, and then tied it to the current logged in user. And you can also do some additional hardening. So let's see here. So you can do Control C. So let's do this. User. So we can have a thing where if not user, uh, right? Oh, and then you can do Well, you do not have to update this. Chirp. Bug off. Alright, so now to edit. Ah, if not user, so now if I go log out, also you got that. Um, it's a double check. So log in. So one thing we got to do here is go into edit. No, index. Hmm. I feel like there. So now we go to chirps. Let's see here. Let's edit this one here. So what we're going to do is set this value to 2. So you can log in. I'm actually completing the future sections. Eh, if user equals there. Okay. So now this is kind of cool. Now only if that condition is true you render the buttons. So if I do perp hmm so 22. All right. So now That's a weird thing where you actually put in the URL. How about this? All right, so now let's copy this. All right. All right. So now, all right. So now go paste. Do not have permission to update this chirp. It's all about that chirp, about that chirp, about that chirp. All right. All right. So we have a good start on the edit. Similar things are going to be happening for the delete, I guess. Actually, what I'm going to do here is I'll create a new video for the delete feature. It's just going to be we're going to be creating a form right here. And we're going to have to find an example here. So there's I got some form examples. So what I'm going to do is go into framework, source, uh, let's see here, manage ACLs. So we're going to put this form, something like this form, in the what'd you call it? Here. All right, so let's go
Your
watch
chirp
the
has been
video first.
updated. Let's try this out. Now I can finally fix this typo. Update chirp. Your chirp has been updated. And look at that. Now you might notice a few things, and we'll get to them in the next couple of lessons, like we can edit anyone's chirp. Well, that's not necessarily good, and we'll fix that when authentication comes into play in the next couple of lessons. First, let's go ahead and make this delete button work right now. As you can tell, nothing happened. One thing that's really cool to note, that if you just copy and pasted it in, I wanted you to know that this is there. In the delete button, if we click on it, it pops up with a browser modal. Are you sure you want to delete this chirp? And of course, this isn't hooked up just yet, but this exists on the on-click method within a button. We want to return a confirm. This is just an HTML modal, an HTML confirmation modal. Are you sure you want to delete this chirp? Just something neat. All right, in the chirp controller, we need to add this destroy method. Again, you guessed it, we need the actual chirp first, and then we're just going to say that we can delete the chirp. Why don't we return a redirect with the same kind of message saying that this chirp has now been deleted. Trying this out. Delete. Okay. Your chirp.
All right, so that was pretty quick. Let's go here. Copy. So and then we need the chirp ID. So we need to pass the ID. All right, so now we need to implement the function. So we can just do a copy. All right, so now let's do this. Copy, and then we'll just paste that. Let's just do our guard to delete this chirp. Let's just remove that. And then chirp delete. And then we need to go render so let's delete and then you can go delete again. All right. And then you can do there you go. And then the flash message is showing. So let's go back and finish this section.
Chirp has been deleted. But again, it's not very good if we can delete anyone's chirp. We'll get to authorization in a little bit and what that means, but I do want to give a sneak peek on what this will look like when we do implement authorization and authentication. In this case, when a user is logged in, how do we know that they are able to edit and delete their own chirps? Let's start off by using an authorization check that Laravel gives. It's something called a policy, and you guessed it, we can use a PHP artisan command to make a policy. Now, we already have a chirp model that this policy should be modeled after, and if we leave that blank, we can say that this is going to be the chirp policy, and we need to apply this to the chirp model. And there we go. If we now look at this chirp policy, this gives us an idea of what can actually happen within a chirp. This is just a clean way to put all the code that we might need to check if a user is able to do X, Y, or Z. And then in our chirp controller, we can do something as simple as saying this authorize delete and passing in the chirp. What this will do is it will say, has this authorize method of delete for this particular chirp, does this user have the ability? And in our chirp policy, in the delete, it's returning false, but I could say this is returning true instead. And of course, we don't have a user just yet. But what this chirp controller is now going to check is, does this user have the delete authorization to be able to delete this particular chirp? I just wanted to give a sneak peek.
So this is what I was doing here. So if we go into So chirp. I can't do it. But this is another thing that's enforcing that action. So if we go back, um, yeah. All right. So test. So if we go 25, log out. Huh. That's interesting. Oh, because I'm not logged in. So there's a lots of layers. So let's see here. I can't do this through, get it, the URL because there's a safeguard. Just the same way as in if I were to do auth, log out. You must log out through menu. All right, so I have multiple guards, including the guard through the code.
Speak on what this would look like as soon as we have users able to be creating chirps, deleting them, editing them. It's as simple as this authorize, but then in our chirp policy, making sure that this is correct. Instead of returning false or true, we really need to just check, is the user the chirp user? And because we have model relationships, it makes it easy. We can say chirp user.
But if I do this, oh, the button's not even there, so I can't even test. It just won't render. But if I go back and chirp, you don't have permission to delete this chirp. So I'm forcing this safety on the front end and also on the back end.
Is user. This is saying if the chirp user is the user that is trying to make this request, then returning true. If it's not, we're returning false. And we need the same for here as well. Again, we can't put this in the chirp controller just yet, so we're going to remove this authorization piece. But once we do set up authentication, then we can add that back in for the destroy method as well as the update method. Lastly, before we move on from this lesson, I do want to change how something is updated or shown when something is updated rather. So if I edit this and I say wow, and I update this, well, we don't know that this was actually edited. We don't know what the original was. We don't necessarily need to worry about that, but it'd be nice to know that this was updated and not just sent 2 hours ago. I mean, most social media platforms have this problem at some point in time, so we
So,
might as well get ahead of it. In our chirp component, in addition to the diff for humans, we really just want to add this if statement. If the chirp has been updated at, and if that updated at is different than when the chirp created at least by 5 seconds, then why don't we show this little edited text? And there we go. This was posted 2 hours ago, but it was edited. If I edit this one by our anonymous user, new post. Edited. Things are really by edit this one by our anonymous posted 2 hours ago. Why don't we show this little edited text?
let's see here. We can do something like that. Created at. All right.
Text. And there we go. This was posted 2 hours ago, but it was edited. If I edit this one by our anonymous user, new post.
Because I don't think I have anything like that yet. So if I go date time. Actually, I do. We have something. Hmm. But it's a little bit different. So Hmm. That returns a Boolean value. All right. Similar to time difference. All right. So let's just undo this. All right. So that's good.
Edited. Things are really coming along. Why don't in the next lesson we add authentication, at least the first piece of it? We're going to allow our users to register, to create new accounts. And you'll see how easy this can be even without a starter kit.
All right. So that is it for the delete part. We will continue with authentication and registration and see if there's anything that's cool that I could have in mind that Laravel has already. So that is it for this video. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.